Welcome to the MC Variety Hour. It's Miles here, guys. Okay, this week I am with Rachel Miller. No Crawford, sad face, no Crawford. Rachel and I, we talk resolutions, we talk motivational posters, we talk a little bit of everything. It's a fantastic 1 hour episode. Make sure that you're chiming in and listening to it. As well as preface, I had said that Rachel won the Podcaster of the Year award. She actually won the Podcaster Contributor of the Year award through Married AF. Richard Tillman was the one who won Podcaster of the Year. I'm so sorry about the misverbiage on that. That was totally my bad, and I deeply apologize because, Richard, you definitely earned the Podcaster of the Year with Married AF. So kudos to you, and kudos to Rachel Miller for being our Podcast Contributor of the Year. As you all know, Rachel Miller has made her rounds on our podcast, Married AF, Po Boys podcast, and Bearded Dad podcast, and continually listening to all of the podcasts that are out there, as she is a delight, and all of the podcasts that she's a part of are delightful to listen to and subscribe and to download for. If you're also looking for other podcasts, you can look at WAFL Productions Podcast. They not only do podcasts, but they do amazing videos and music and all kinds of wonderful things. You can look into the hashtag nophonypodcastnetwork as well. There's about 20 some odd podcasters on there that range from politics to movies to comedy and variety, as well as you could look into hashtag wlipodpeeps. And you're looking at about 40 or 50 other podcasters there. And again, that talks about work, life, and balance. We're talking about Brooke Reading Podcast, the WDIM Podcast, the Cabinet Podcast, Super Mario Brothers Podcast. We're talking about so many different podcasters that are part of these networks. Go ahead, reach out, subscribe, download. If you're like, I don't want to do that right now, that's fine. Follow us at MC Variety Hour on Twitter. And if you read through just our personal profile, you will see a lot of retweets that we have for all these amazing podcasters. We want to go ahead and give everybody the amount of love that we can, but there's only so much time in a day. So for right now, go ahead, put on your headphones, look through Twitter as you listen through Rachel and I's amazing 1 hour podcast. And don't you worry, next week, Crawford and I are back together with the wonderful Aaron from Drinks with Larry, and we have a delightful conversation with Aaron about music, growing up, growing short, and how life comes at us pretty quick. It's a great episode as well. So look forward to the next few weeks of Miles and Crawford actually having their shit together for once. All right, guys. Thank you. Cheers to 2019.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.
The Miles and Crawford Variety Hour. Crawford is not here this evening. She has got some stuff going on, but don't you worry. Tonight is the Miles and Rachel Variety Hour. So welcome to our lovely podcast, the most wonderful lady in the universe. And according to Married AF, the Podcaster of the Year, Rachel Miller.
That's so cute.
Oh, my goodness. So you made Podcaster of the Year.
Yeah, they're so sweet over there. And people seem to like the guest spot. So I'll just be grateful for that and appreciative of the nod to how well those things have gone. And, and now word has spread because I've done you guys, I've done Po Boys podcast, and I did Bearded Dad podcast the other day.
I know. I downloaded that, and I'm so excited to put that on my headphones tomorrow. How was that pod? I don't know if I've ever listened, but I liked the show, and I downloaded it from Podbean, so I'll make sure to and I followed them now. So,
yeah, we had a really good chat, so I think you'll like it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it once you do. Lots of stuff is going on in his life, and so we chatted a little bit about that, and we chatted a little bit about New Year's resolutions, because it is January after all.
And I think we've talked about resolutions before via like Twitter messages, but how do
Yes.
you feel about resolutions?
The thing about them is for me, I I don't have this sort of like anti-resolution thing. Everyone fails at them anyway, so why bother setting them? To me, I think I don't care when you do it. You can decide to sit down and sort of take stock of what's gone on in your life. And I mean, you can do it from your birthday to your birthday. You can do it from an anniversary to an anniversary. I just think the first of the year is a sort of specific time that a lot of people do it. But I don't know that self-reflection is ever a bad thing. So
No, I would agree.
so if you look back at the year and go, these are the things that I think went well and I want to do more of this year. And these are the things that I did that maybe weren't so helpful for all the places I'm trying to get in life. Maybe I should let some of that go. To me, then resolutions are great and they're fine. But if they're this thing you're sort of setting yourself up for, like, and if they don't go well, you're going to feel really crappy about yourself, well, then I'm not so sure they're the right move for you.
Yeah, it's I have a very love-hate relationship with resolutions because I feel like people are setting themselves up intentionally for failure. And I don't
Okay, so
think that they
so tell me more about that because you'd mentioned that, and I'm curious as to why you think they're intentionally setting themselves up for failure. I'm so intrigued by this.
it's like I think it's one of those weird things that people make they it's almost like they can't wait to be a part of the group of people who failed their resolutions. Like they can't wait to join the breakfast club per se. They want to join the kids in the detention hall who I'm going to try really, really, really hard. And then they're going to be really, really good. And it's like if you go to the gym right now, there's probably an extra 30 people that will be there tonight that will not be there in a month from now. And it's because it's like they know, like, well, I did this, I signed up, and this is what I'm gonna do. Okay, great. And then but then it's like they're like, okay, so when can I give up now? Like, is the month of February a good time to give up on your resolutions? Oh well, shit, I ate a piece of chocolate, so now I'm done for. And I like, I don't.
Well,
It's
okay,
so fascinating to me, like how I feel that people they almost have the gumption to quit a resolution. I think it's something that some of them, not all the time, like you said, reflection is great. Um, Changing the way that you're thinking or how you're doing things is awesome. But I feel like a
right.
lot of people are like, or maybe it's like, hey, I ate this one piece of chocolate, so fuck my diet. I'm done. And I can go back to eating all my crappy food all over again because this was just too hard. And it's
Well,
like they almost want to
yeah.
get to that point. I don't
Well,
know.
but there is something to that. There's that ridiculous Facebook meme that I've seen floating around. I mean, maybe it was on Twitter. I can't keep them straight anymore. But there was one that was like, so if somebody slashed one of your tires, do you go around and slash the other three because what the fuck? Like,
Exactly.
no,
Yeah. And people
no,
and they
don't
do
do
that.
that.
And they do though. I feel like it's I don't know. And like I said, maybe it's my own like very like narcissistic point of view on things, but it's really
Maybe pessimistic. I don't know that it's
pessimistic.
narcissistic.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess to be pessimistic. Good. I know, bad verbiage there. Um but it's one of these things, and maybe it's from like the people I know.
Maybe.
Maybe that it just seems, and it's funny because I feel like I've been living more positively over the last, like, because I've been trying to say, Amanda, don't make a resolution for yourself like on
Okay.
January 1st. I made mine like beginning of December because
Okay.
I didn't want to be one of those people who was just joining the change because it was the first of the year. Because you're right, you should be able to like go for it. And I said, you know what? I know that I want to work on like going back to the gym 3 days a week. And if anything more, like it's not even about losing weight for me. It's like I just need to start a healthier path because if I start drinking more water and going to the gym, then eventually I will not want to eat such crappy food, which then, what I'm saying? Like it'll be like
Right.
a snowball effect.
Well, it's
And
sort of that conversation I had with Brooke and Randall where I said, look, I'm a very big fan of like, instead of like cutting things out of your life, because sometimes that's a lot harder. Like, I'm
yeah,
going to give up all this stuff. I'm going to stop doing all these things. Sometimes it's easier to figure out what's a small thing you can add to your life. So even if it, even if it's, I don't know, going from not going to the gym at all to going to the gym one time a week, great.
You're adding something, and that's what I really
Right.
wanted to do. And but I feel like I don't know. I think that people they have this like want. Okay, they want to have a resolution. They want to stick with it, but they also can't. But they need to like get rid of it. They're like, well, if I think it absolves them somehow. Like for them, if they don't follow through with that, they're going to quit smoking, or they're going to lose weight, or if they're going to eat healthy. They don't necessarily have themselves to hold accountable. They have their resolution accountable. I know that
Mm,
sounds fucking weird, but like,
well, so two things about that. One, I think you might be right. This might have something to do with people that you're hanging around with or the people that you've been around this time of year every year. It might be worth having another conversation about. The other thing I would say to that is look, if you make a resolution every year and every January you're really good about like working out and eating healthy, hell, you're doing better than some people. Like you
and
got one, maybe you get 4 weeks this year and 6 weeks next year and 8 weeks the year after that. I don't know. Is it such a bad thing if you know you dedicate every January to doing doing some more exercise, cooking at home, eating a little more I don't know. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I think it's 4 more weeks than you ate healthy last year.
oh,
I
that's such
mean,
a good way of looking at it, Rachel. That's such a good way
right?
of looking at it.
And the thing is I had this conversation with a client because of the simple fact that we were talking about New Year's resolutions are stupid and but we were also having this conversation about how Decembers are really hard, particularly if you've experienced loss,
Yeah.
in that last year, or it's maybe a first Christmas without someone you love and care about, or you've had a recent breakup, or there's a death in the family, or there's all kinds of things that the holidays can bring up for people. And if December's tough, January can be a really good place to reset. And I don't care if you reset for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, but maybe it puts you in a better place than you were that same time last year. And maybe you did a little better this time than you did the last time. And you should pat yourself on the back for that. Like, I just
Oh, my little ray of positive. That's what I was needing. And it's funny because I was actually I had like a moment when I was done with the gym this evening and I was talking to my husband and I said, I know I said that I'm really trying to stay more positive and not be so like angry and negative, but if I don't talk about this for at least 45 seconds, I'm going to fucking scream. So like here's my crazy like rant or whatever. And then
right.
and as soon as I got done ranting, I was like, okay, this is why I know that that was wrong and this was very judgmental of me to say and like but at least it's off my chest. And I
And
think that you're very right because
now I feel better.
now I feel better. And I think that you are very right that, it's yeah, it's a very good positive way of looking at it with some people who, like you said, it might just be for 3 or 4 weeks. And maybe it is the fact that I've heard too many people either maybe they're so negative that that kind of rubs in my brain, like, oh, maybe
Mhm.
people just don't like, why does everybody wait, and I don't want to be a part of that group of people who have to wait, I'm like, but then I'm falling into that same kind of negative atmosphere where I'm trying not to, like I want to be a more positive person, but let me look at you negatively.
Well, okay. I mean, let's look. That's actually an interesting possibility of a resolution, right? I would like to be more positive this year. Okay, awesome. I think that's a great plan. There's lots of ways to do that that don't require you to give up all negativity in your life. We in this society do a pretty ridiculous job of insisting that happy is all we're ever supposed to be. Positive is all we're ever supposed to be. I'm sorry. Have you met people? We don't like we are not happy and positive all the time. Life doesn't allow that. If you would like a full human experience of our existence, that means you're going to feel every emotion on the spectrum. You're going to, have positive thoughts and negative thoughts and helpful thoughts and unhelpful thoughts and all kinds of crap, right? They all exist. You can't make them disappear. But what you can do is ride them as they occur. What you can do is put them in perspective experience them in the moment and then let them move on. Like there's lots of ways to do that that don't require you to pretend like you never experience a negative emotion. Namaste. No, come on.
Well,
Give me a fucking break. You're a person. Like, okay, look, I'm a pretty positive person in general. Like, I believe that people are good. I believe that, the universe provides a lot of opportunities for good things. Like, I look for the good in people and in situations, and I am that person. And sometimes people fucking piss me off. Like, so does that suddenly mean I'm not a positive person? No, it means I acknowledge that, I don't know, maybe I'm having a hard day, so I'm extra sensitive to the way people act. Or maybe I just woke up in a shitty mood and that's okay too. It'll go away. It always does. And in those moments, I ride them. And if they're really bad, gratitude is a great way to pull out of some of that stuff if it's unhelpful for me in the moment. But what I'm not willing to do is to pretend like I don't have the full range of emotions because I'm supposed to be a positive, light and shiny person. Bullshit. Nobody's light and shiny all the time. Don't lie to yourself.
well, and I think that's one of those things that I'm trying to like really make sure of is that, again, like, we've talked often about, kids, and
Yeah.
how that's a huge reflection on them. And then I'm like, maybe in order to try to create more, not that my kids aren't kind, but they definitely have their moments, because they're kids.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, they're allowed to have their emotions and their bad days and their anger and whatever
Right.
else. And so I'm like, okay, if I can, but again, I would go back to so many of our, so many of that first podcast conversation, but looking back and saying, okay, if I want my kids to behave, I can't constantly contradict what I'm telling them. I can't
Right.
constantly tell them, you have to be a good person, while I'm
Right.
screaming at them. And like you can't do those things, and it's one
Right.
of those moments that I've really
They're
been
watching you.
they are and little by little, and I think it was one of those things again that kind of came into the I'm gonna start all of this before the new year because I feel like for myself
Hmm.
my accountability that I have is saying I'm not a part of the big group. This is something that I should be doing. And like I need to stop making myself feel like I'm Amanda, I'm the rebel. I'm gonna not do what everybody else is doing. But at the same time, like do it in a way where I'm like, I'm kind of close enough where I can do my own thing and I can
Right.
hold myself accountable and I'm
Yeah.
kind of near the new year, but like not, and then it's always, it's been working on that like every day. Like, okay, like you said, I'm going to have my days where like I'm going to scream the shit out of my kids. And I'm like, son of a bitch, like son of a bitch.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, guys, this is where mom screwed up. And I'm really, really sorry. You're not allowed to hold it against me because I'm not going to hold against you that this is what you did to bring me here. But let's all take a deep breath and let's work on this, and now I'm, trying to incorporate that with my husband, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm starting it. And if I set the tone, then I need you to follow and vice versa. If I'm getting too crazy, you like, this is our goal. Like, it's not even, and maybe that's just it. Maybe it's the word resolution. Um,
Maybe.
and, and maybe it should really be the word goal. Like your goal should be
Yep.
like, I want, like you said, even if it's for 4 weeks, I want to eat really healthy for 4 weeks because if in 4 weeks is technically 28 days, and they say that it takes 28 times to create a habit.
Exactly. And
And
that's why I
yeah,
figure every time somebody gets to that mark, well, they're that much closer to developing the habit. And so I don't care. Maybe it didn't stick this time. Maybe it'll stick next time. I don't necessarily see those things as failures either. What I see them as is learning opportunities. So I don't necessarily look at it as is it a failed resolution? Is it a no, it's an opportunity to learn. So what went well? What did you do well? What did you get out of it? What was helpful? What didn't work for you? Okay, cool. Note to self, next time I feel like trying this, I'll remember these pieces of information and what was helpful and what wasn't. and you
Man,
can
that's
move on
why I
from
love listening to you. You're so full of so much wisdom. Or is it because you're on a sweet beach right now? Is that
it.
you're still near the beach right now, right?
I am. I can hear the ocean out my bedroom window here.
I'm so jealous. I can't
Uh,
complain. I mean, Ohio's not our weather is not even wintry yet. We haven't even experienced real winter. I mean, it was like 55 degrees on Christmas Day or something stupid. So like,
I mean,
but
Chicago has not been as bad as it could be. I mean, we looked at like 5 years ago. Maybe it wasn't even. Maybe it was 3 years ago. We were at -15 on this day. Like, it, Tom sends me, what is it, a time hop, thing, and I was like, that is just awful. I'm going out to the beach now. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna go back outside and there is sunshine and there
Right,
is salt water and I feel
right.
so much better.
And I'm so much happier. But
Oh God, I love the beach.
so yeah, so I have this lovely place to sit and sort of contemplate how the last year went for me and how things, were. And like I said, I'm not a person who necessarily sets resolutions. I do sort of say, okay, maybe this year I'd like to procrastinate less. It's sort of the running family joke. We all know I'm probably never going to do anything about that. It's fine. But I try to at least set the intention and then maybe I can strive for that. Or, my actual intention this year, and I really do like this new tendency, this trend that's happening about like choosing a word for 2019 or setting an intention for the year. Because that sometimes feels more manageable. I think you're right about language, right? People don't always figure out for themselves what how they make meanings of certain words. Like, I'm a person who I'm not always a real fan of the word forgiveness. And I think it's because I attach all kinds of, meanings about forgive and forget and blah and all that stuff to it. And so I don't like the word. It will really get me going in a way that's not helpful. So I don't often use it. Resolutions may be a word like that for you. And so
Yeah.
if goal feels more appropriate, then use it. Like I said, I like intentions. And so, like, what I learned a lot last year for myself is, well, and some of it's not even things I didn't know. Some of it's just things I tried to push my own limits on. Um, but I really did too much in this fall semester for school. I took on too much. I didn't say no when I should have. And it was probably the toughest semester I've had in school since I started 8 years ago. And I'm like, you know what? Lesson learned. This year's intention is to trust my gut and only do the things I need to do instead of everything I want to do. I just need to choose more wisely. My physical health requires it, my mental health requires it, and I need to pay better attention to me and what I need. But that came after a really rough semester. And so, is it my resolution for the year? Maybe not. Maybe that's not a good word, but it's definitely my intention for this year is to make space for the things I need to do and not take on things that I don't have to and that aren't mine.
Well, exactly. And I think that's a huge thing that, that for one, that's awesome of you to have recognized like that part, of you where you say, okay, I ran myself too thin. And I'm
Mhm.
really good at doing that too, where, I get into, these modes where I just fucking go crazy and I just dive into a million things all at once. And like, I don't know. It's not like mania or anything, but it almost kind of feels like that way, for like 3 or 4 months where like I'm fine, but like I have also stockpiled way too much crap in way too short a period of time. And then I'm like,
Is it hard? Okay, rephrase this question. Is it because you have a hard time telling people no, or is it because you want to do all the things?
I think it's a little bit of both, but
Okay.
mostly it's because to me, I feel like I want to get my hands dirty into everything.
Yeah,
Because
that's why I asked because I'm that way too. I want
because
to do all the things.
I want to do all the things. I want to because I am a firm believer that you know there's a huge consequence for opportunities missed.
Mm.
And that I'm one of those people, and maybe it's a fear of, if I don't do this, then I might miss this thing that I will not be a part of, or how if this really
Oh,
big
yeah,
thing
FOMO.
happens and I'm not there, and then there I'm going to either A, be jealous, or B, be upset, or three, like, or whatever
Yeah, you're
crazy.
gonna beat yourself up about it later. Like, I knew I should have done the thing.
Exactly. And so I think it's one of those, again, just a weird concept of, you know, even from like childhood, where people will start to do that. Well, if I don't do this with my friends, if I don't go to the party, if I don't do this, if I
Right.
don't doing that, then I don't get to be a part of whatever it is that you're
Well,
being a part of.
look, it's got its acronym. It's FOMO. It's fear of missing out.
Yeah. God.
Like it's a thing. It's a thing. But it's also like, I mean, and I won't pretend that I it's all this wisdom. Part of it's because I'm 44 and I have an autoimmune disorder where my body was like, you're gonna have to stop this now. Like, sorry, your brain doesn't run this show the way you think it does. So some of that was like out of my control, but also it takes time to figure out, I think, you know, what fits into your life, what lines up with your values, what are the things, we act like there's a limited number of opportunities. We live in that space of scarcity that tells us there's only going to be one chance to do this. There's only going to be one chance to do that. But it's just not true.
It's super scary. I think that it is. Here's the problem with what I have, I think, talked about on several different episodes. I fucking hate motivational posters. It is like my nemesis. I can't do it. The only one I will ever appreciate is a little kitten that hangs from the tree and says, "Hang in there, buddy," or whatever that is. Uh, but I
What do you hate
really,
about them?
because I think I think that, okay, so let's go back to like school,
Okay.
and let's walk down the hallway and into our teacher's classroom, where somebody always had the empty stadium and the runner going up all those stairs in an empty stadium, and I think it had something about success. And then there was another one with the big wide vast ocean, that talked about whatever. And I feel like, as much as those were supposed to be motivational, inspirational, these things were supposed to let us know, like, hang in there, buddy, you can do this. I think at the same time, though, and because I'm fucking crazy, I think that I think that it also set unprecedented expectations that if we don't run all the way up the fucking stadium stairs in an empty state, like, we're never going to be successful. If we don't do all these things, we're not going to achieve it. And not only that, but especially from, like you said, there's an acronym now for FOMO. Well, it's
Yes.
that same idea about people who don't go to college. It's about
Hmm.
all those things. And I feel like that's why I hate motivational posters. And trust me, I've got a bunch of like really, silly shit around my house that my friend always buys for me for Christmas. And I love them because they're so cheesy and they're great. But like, and there's none of them are posters, so that wooden stuff with your inspirational
Hmm.
quote on it. But for some reason, it's the posters that bother me. And they really do. I'm like, why? Why is this up in every classroom? Why is this up in every boss's? They're not. Are they really even living, for one, by these posters
Uh,
that are hanging? Are they
that's
really doing this? And are you putting pressure on me for things that, like, it
well
was
because
always.
it feels disingenuous.
Yes, it does. It really feels. And I feel like it also brought a bunch of kids who were surrounded by those all day long, reading them, bored out of their mind in school some days, over and over and over again. It made them feel that they had to take all these opportunities. And if they did, they weren't. They weren't going to be successful. They
Well,
weren't
it
going to
makes
see the vast ocean. They weren't going to be motivated, They're like, fuck, now I'm going to miss out. I'm going to miss out. I'm going to miss out. Like, no, you're not.
well, I think, so much of that, i I think it varies by child, number one, but number two, what it can do, particularly dependent on the homes you grow up in, the friends you hang out with, the teachers you're surrounded by, is whether or not the person who has that around them, whether they be a Facebook poster or a physical poster in a classroom, is does that feel in line? Does it feel in line with the values of the person who's putting it out there, or does it feel like fake and affront?
Well, and I think that's what the problem with most of them being into the schools are. And it's not because there's not genuine teachers out there who are making a fucking difference for shit pay in our fucking public schooling system. Because God,
Right?
teachers, I love you guys so much. But
Agreed.
I think that also the teachers that we have nowadays are very different from a lot of the tenured teachers that a lot of us remember growing up with. A lot of the older teachers who really didn't care.
Well, motivation was an attempt to like, I don't know about you, but back in the day, it felt like the teachers with those motivations were just like they were like cheesy cheerleaders on the side. They didn't actually give you anything to help.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah, that's exactly what it
they
was.
didn't sort of, well, and let's be real. Did anybody define success for you as you were growing up? Like how did you make sense of that? Like what was success for you? Like what did you think they meant by that?
Oprah and that, I mean, honestly, like, I'm what, 36, and the one person that was consistently talked about all the time about her success, about her struggling, her weight, all those things that, Oprah Winfrey, from her television show on, she was supposed to be, that's right, guys, as a white girl in Ohio. But to me,
Uh,
like, that was a definition of what, at least what was the media ingrained into my brain. I didn't
so
take
success
on.
for you was fame,
Hmm.
money,
Yep.
exposure,
Hmm. But
a
doing it
following.
properly, doing it properly. You don't want to turn out like an MTV VJ, on the
You don't
real
want
world.
that fame.
You don't want that fame. Okay. You want the fame of like Oprah. You want the fame of the person who America looks at and people listen to. And maybe that's probably why I podcast later on in life. Like, it's it's that. It's these are the things that are going to make you successful. And at the same time, we both kind of come from that generation of, Bill Gates, big
Right?
uprising, Jeff Bezos,
Steve
big uprising.
Jobs.
Yep, Steve Jobs. I mean, all of
Well,
those
look,
people were supposed
yeah,
to be like, which that was successful to us. Nobody told us that it really what could have been successful, and not that
well,
it wasn't. Was like,
but America, I mean, let's think about this really. America's a meritocracy. Not for real, not really a meritocracy, but that's how it's sold. The American dream is sold as a meritocracy. If you work hard enough, anyone can be Bill Gates, anyone can be Oprah. You know, when we all know that that's not true, and we all know that there are plenty of roadblocks in the way for anyone who is, you know, who is not the epitome of, white upper class men.
yeah.
You
And I
know,
think that's why Oprah was like one of those successes, because she was
yeah,
not one of those that was out there. But at the
right.
same time, like, even over time, and maybe that's a lot of some of where my bitterness in the general overhaul came from, was
Maybe.
because over time by the way, Oprah's a person, and don't get me
Right.
wrong, she still puts out some really good like speeches, and don't, you know, there's a lot of things that I still really appreciate about the woman, but I have always
Yeah.
said she's now farther out than she ever was in. She
Well,
is now living her best life for a lot longer than she was living her hard life. And not that she can't talk about it, and not that she can't relive it, and not that that still doesn't ingrain in her, that's not what still keeps her motivated. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but like, when were you like last time, like, seriously struggle busing for like health insurance? Like, in the way that people are struggling for health insurance
right.
nowadays.
Yeah, I hear that.
You
And I
know,
think, but I think, so here's the thing about if we're talking motivational, inspirational affirmations and quotes and things like that. I mean, sure, there's surface level at like when you see them, right? But so I would argue this, true or not, for everyone, I can't say. But what I can say is that sometimes there's a phrase that speaks to you, and sometimes there's something that connects with you on a different kind of level that pulls you out of a hole. Words matter. Words can really, really make a difference, but they need to speak to you. They need to be the thing that says to you, I don't have to live like this. I do have some choices. I can choose to see this differently, you know, for every person that's different, like what those words are, what that motivational thing is. For some people, it's you know, it's a motivational speaker. For some people, it's a book by Brene Brown entitled Gifts of Imperfection, or I Thought It Was Just Me. For some people, it's, who else? There's The Awakened Family, where a parent really like reads something in this book and it speaks to them on a level that allows them to be the parent they've always wanted to be. But I think you can define success in every area of your life for yourself. Like success for me is being able to live a life that you know, aligns with my truth and my purpose and my values. It's not about money. But part of me it gets to say that because I'm not constantly worrying about it, right? Like
Right. Well, and I think that's where and I said like that was what used to define success for me. Oprah Winfrey
right.
is what defined success. And like,
Mhm.
but now I'm not sure if she so much defines success. Now, for me, success would be, the minute that I had paid off one of my smaller student loans, but
Mm.
it still dropped my payment by like $50.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm still going to pay the original amount so I can get the other one paid off this much faster.
Right.
And that was success for me. And I know that like
Yeah.
the day that I pay off my car or the day that I pay off that hospital, those to me are successes now. And I think
Good.
again, I think now, and maybe where that pessimism, or that anger, or that man to get that negativity out is just that, like you said, I do know that there's a lot of people who need their mantras. Don't get me wrong. I'm not
Right.
here to judge you. If you need to be one of those live, laugh, dance, whatever people, dude, you go be you, because I'm inspired by like silly things like quotes by Alan Alda and like TV shows and cartoons like Adventure
Right.
Time. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. Like, I'm not here to ever define what success is. I think I'm more upset about how people are so upset with themselves because of a false sense of success that we were given to us as kids and young adults. And I think maybe that's my frustration, is that I'm not frustrated
Yeah.
frustrated with the idea of how many people are out there with their heads hung low who have to make resolutions for themselves that may be so far out of the stretch because they feel that everything else is unsuccessful, because according to us it is about your Instagram likes, about Twitter, about your social media presence, about the amount of money you have, and whether or not you are, popular, whether or not you are, on what, however it is,
So you
if
want to know what I hear you saying?
what.
So here's what I
God.
hear you saying. What has you pissed off is the fucking system.
I
The
fucking hate our system so
the white
much.
yes, it's the white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. Like let's be real. That whole bullshit, because you work hard.
Yeah.
You know lots of people who work fucking hard all the fucking time, and how come they never get ahead? How come you don't get ahead in the way that the world sort of told you you would if you worked hard? You just need to work hard. You just need to get up earlier. You just need to, stand in front of the ocean and see what's possible. Are you is the world telling you that like you didn't do any of those things, that you didn't get up early enough, that you didn't work hard enough, that you didn't have a big enough vision and that's why you're not in the place like Oprah? Girl, you got plenty of reasons to be pissed, right?
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. And again, maybe that's why I hate the resolutions, is because I'm tired of people not feeling like their last year wasn't good enough for them.
There you go.
You
See,
know?
that's what this comes down to. Is you start to deconstruct this thing that you're feeling. Part of what I'm hearing is resentment about the fact that why why is it that it's not enough for people to love themselves, have a good, like, enjoy the life that they have. Why is everyone always having to strive for more? And why do so many people struggle with feeling like they're not good enough?
It's really frustrating for me. Like, because
Yeah.
I know that I carry it around on myself sometimes, but
Right.
to me, like, there's that love hate of acceptance,
Right.
when you kind of come to that moment where you're like, dude, I could totally just accept all of what I am right now. And I would be okay with that. But I also know that if I accepted everything without having maybe a little bit of a battle within me, then where's my strive? But because that's how I work. I'm not saying that's how y'all gotta work, okay? By the way, like that's
Right.
how I work. I need to have something to work for. So for me, like, if I
Yeah.
don't like something, then I need to work on that, and that's okay. But I think
Well,
it is very frustrating when I see a lot of people who just they you see this generation just I feel, especially in between both of ours, that really are really, really, really self-destructing. And it's beyond the opiates. It's beyond just a mental health crisis. It's a little bit of mix of both, obviously. But I think a majority of it is the fact that we have programmed so many people to feel worthless, and that
yeah.
we have programmed so many people to feel like what they're doing isn't enough. If you
Yes.
don't have this by this age,
Yes.
this is how you can raise your credit score in, 300 days by, literally having no life, which is fine. However, like, what life are you living if you cut everything out of it? Just to make sure that your credit score is good enough for what? For a house you're not even sure it's going to be able to survive the next market crash? So you can get an extra
Yeah.
credit card for extra debt with a lower APR? Yes. But, like, also, why aren't you looking in the mirror? And I don't care whatever it is that you think is wrong with you. Like, you've been systematically programmed to be in, like, this is what's wrong with me.
Well,
And
right. And
that's really frustrating for me, because I'm like, no, bitch, you're fine. Like, knock it off. Like, find something else. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's like, find something else better
but
to
this
resolve.
system doesn't work if we all feel like we're good enough.
I know. God.
That's the problem. The system perpetually teaches us that we must be better than, have power over, and it starts with how parents insist on having power over their kids. Like,
Yeah.
so we teach kids, as much as we love our children, and the world is full of really great parents, but we also are constantly teaching them to strive for more, to do better, that just them as they are is very often not good enough. And I don't think parents do this intentionally. We were raised the same way.
Yeah.
You know, if you got, a 3.5 GPA, why wasn't it a 4? Like, if you got so and in some ways it's because, we as parents tend to see our children as extensions of ourselves instead of their own individual people. You know, Lots of us are living our lives through our children instead of allowing them to take their own journeys. We try to correct our own mistakes and our own what we didn't get. And, we try to do that for them or have them live the life we didn't get. Like, all of that stuff shows up in parenting, in great ways and in not great ways.
Yeah.
But so from a very early age, the whole system requires people to feel not good enough.
And that's super frustrating. And I think that's why I fucking hate resolutions. Like, because I really, like, that's what's fucking wrong with them. Like, dude, I want them to do it for them. And
Well,
sometimes it
okay,
is, but I
so
feel like maybe it's not. Like, is
so
this what you're
here's the
doing
thing.
because you think it has to be?
But here's the thing. What if there's a way to look at that? Because I think there is a difference between healthy striving, right?
Yeah.
Striving for growth, striving for learning, striving for rather than just striving for better than the person next to me or better than I was yesterday. What if what we're striving for is growth and learning and change?
And
Does that
that's,
reframe
yeah,
that at all?
absolutely it does. Because that's what and it's not that losing weight or whatever it is that the resolutions isn't a part of that. I
Right.
think that
Right.
it's just, I want to make sure and my own, I don't know why. I mean, it's not my business. Society is not my business, okay? Like, I get it. Like, I'm not here to, I mean, I'm here to fix society. I'm here to change society. That's why I was born. In my true, like, in my brain, that's how this all works. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I know that I shouldn't care about what everybody else out there I is doing. I just hope that the resolutions they're making is because they want to make them, not because they think. I don't want you to go out there and eat healthy because you think that's what all resolutions are supposed to be, is about changing something that you enjoy doing. I don't think you
Mm-hmm.
should also eat 30 cheeseburgers in a month by any means whatsoever. But at the same time, I want to make sure that if you're doing this, if you're making those resolutions, that you're doing it because it's something that you genuinely want to do, not because your friends are razzing you, not because somebody made a bad comment, not because society tells you that you need to change this about yourself, that you need to be skinnier, that you need to be tanner, that you need to be in shape, or all those things. I hope that you are making your resolutions, but most of all, that you're making your goals for yourself, like
Well,
for
I think
your
there's a
life.
great difference there, right? Like there's a great difference between a resolution, like I'm going to be resolute in this thing, and I have a goal to do this differently this year. Like I
Because
feel like in
resolution
some
seems like
ways
it's
that feels
very like,
different.
isn't resolution meaning like the end of something that you've come to an agreement on it? Like, I'm not sure. I honestly, like, what is the actual definition of resolution?
You're gonna
Because
make
to
me look
me,
this up because yeah, now I'm
like,
like, wait.
what I remember resolution being is that like me and so got in a fight on the playground, and the resolution was like us talking it out and going our separate ways. Like, and then you resolved it and it was gone. And then
Well,
that's
okay, so but it can be as simple as like one of the definitions that comes up is a firm decision to do or not to do something. It can be that simple.
oh, okay.
So yeah, there's I mean I think
Overthinking
clearly
it,
there's
Miles. You're overthinking it as usual.
but I think that like I think sometimes for people success is around the language that you use. And I think that, for me the the way you get worked up about the word resolution is truly the way that I get worked up about the word forgiveness. And it's because I have so much crap behind that word that brings up so much stuff for me that is not a word I can use in a helpful way. So I find other words and I find other phrases and I find other things that are similar in concept but allow me to not block myself around that stuff. Does that make sense? Like,
No, that completely makes sense. And like you said, it's just for me, like you said, it's verbiage. It's just
yeah.
something that to me, I'm like, this isn't, you know, I don't know why. Like, it's so funny 'cause I'm not a Catholic, but to me, like resolutions and resolving is like, is that absolving people of everything? Like, I don't. I want people, and maybe it is because of where society has become that I'm like, why are you guys so dead set on changing all of these things when there's so much other things that your life needs from you? A happier you, a
Mm,
more mental you, a more this you, a more, somebody that's just like away from the bullshit. Like, even when I go
yeah.
to the gym, like, I try to find, I hate, like, I don't enjoy going to the gym. One day maybe I will, but I don't. And I try to find the most like weird times to go. Like, I'm gonna go at like 4:15 on like a Saturday, just to see, to make sure like there's like not that many. I can't stand packed gyms for one thing. It has always bothered me.
I
Most
won't go
upset.
to the gym. It's not my
No,
thing.
God, I hate it. And
Nope, don't go.
it's not fun. And I also don't like the fact that in a women's locker that I feel that women look at me weird when I'm changing in a women's locker room. First of all, I'm not walking around butt ass naked, okay? Like, I'm changing my pants as quickly as possible. You might have saw my fucking underwear. Calm down. We're women. There is nothing for us to be ashamed of. Stop acting like me changing my clothes in a locker room. An open locker room is weird. It's what we're supposed to do in the locker room is change our clothes. Stop making it a thing because
But
you
look, we body shame in society, period.
I know, and I
All
hate
bodies,
that.
like all bodies get
That's
shamed.
what y'all should fucking resolutions should be. Stop body shaming people. Stop
So
making
I
stop it. Just fucking be cool, man.
a friend of mine posted an interesting article today and I'll send it to you because it was interesting and it was talking about how our current approach to exercise is actually problematic and not so great for us, and that going to the gym 3 times a week doesn't do the thing that we really need it to do. And ultimately, like, the short version of this is that the problem is we're too set, like, we're trying to do it in these bursts of, like, I will exercise for 1 hour 3 times a week, and yes, that's better than never doing it at all. But the truth is we're so sedentary throughout the day that because we have so many things that do everything for us. Like, the example they gave was, back in the day, if you were to clean a rug, you would beat the shit out of it for like an hour and a half, and that in itself was it was physically taxing.
Yeah.
And now you can, like, set a RoboVac to, like, clean your freaking floor for you in like 0.2 seconds, like, you know.
Do
And
you
so
guys,
it was
by the way, know that you can actually burn, like, it's actually very, very healthy, and as a solid way to burn calories is to go bowling. Found that out the other night when I actually skipped the gym to go bowling. But I
interesting.
found out that I could, in every 30 minutes for somebody of my weight, I burn between about 130 to 150 calories every half an hour going bowling.
Interesting. Though I'm not surprised from what I read in this article, because it was very interesting. Um, just talking about the everyday activities we used to do had us moving and had us using all of our muscles, and we had greater strength, and we had, you know, that was the piece of longevity. Like, when they do the studies on the people who live really long lives, like people who live to be over 100, it's not because they're runners, and it's not because they're hitting the gym every day, and it's not like, it's more about, a non-sedentary life in general. Like, they walk places and they carry things and they do things and they're busy, not like busy, like glorify busy, but their tasks of everyday living keep them moving.
Well,
So it was
exactly. If the grocery store is only 3 blocks from your house, then why do you drive there? Unless the
right.
fucking weather
Yes.
sucks, but why not just
Right.
walk
Yes.
there? Well, I gotta have, groceries to carry.
Yeah,
Well,
they
if it's
said
not more than 2 or 3 bags, then I mean, back in the day, people, and even if they were getting quote unquote like horse and buggy rides, well, first of all, you had to get the horses on the fucking buggy for one
right.
thing, and then you're sitting there and you still gotta sit up proper, and then not like that, but there is some calories to be burned while your butt's bouncing up and down and up and down and up and down. That's just how it's gonna be. I'm sorry, but that, and trying to plant yourself, the
Right.
muscle weights that you're using and all those things, and that's
Yeah.
my new job. It has one of those cool desks that move up and down. And I
Okay.
constantly make sure that I'm at least standing at my desk every day. And that way I can like pump my legs up and down while I'm standing there and I'm on my phone, and
Mm.
but I'm at least standing for when I'm not sitting. And two, while I'm standing there, I'm always like moving my feet, trying to stretch, like do these little things because it's like seriously, especially like on a lazy day, you think
Right.
about it. Like fucking New Year's Day, fucking my husband was sick, but like I laid in bed. I'm like, I did not move for like damn near 18 hours because I had that other day off too.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I laid in bed all day long. I got up to go pee, and that was it. And maybe find some more like donuts to shove in my yes, that's
Right.
right. I go to the gym and I eat donuts in bed. It's a thing. And
Well, this article was talking about how, like, the Fitbits and stuff are helpful because they sort of can, in some ways, can they record how much we're moving, so we're more aware of how much we're moving. And they're saying, 10,000 steps is a start, but this article was like 15,000 would be closer to the way, like, our predecessors lived. So 15,000 steps a day. Well, I realized today I did 15,000 steps. That's like over 5 miles. Just like, I walked today, but that's because I'm not working and I'm on the beach. And so I did lots, and I'm like, that would take a lot of my time every day if I was actually moving around and walking that much. Like, so it sort of made me rethink the way that I thought about movement and exercise and what I do throughout the day. So I'll share the article with you and you can put it up on the site, because it was an interesting read.
no,
I was
I'm really
fascinated by
interested in
that.
that because I was, like the other night when we decided to go bowling, and it wasn't more the fact that the kids, we went back to work, but the kids had one more day, and so I'm like, well, let's make the
Right.
last day of like, Christmas vacation fun. Not that they've been lounging around for 2 fucking weeks playing video games and being ridiculous. It's not fun. I was like, we need to get them like legit, like out of the house and like doing something, And so the bowling alley was reasonable. We had gift cards for it anyway, so let's go. And it was
Right.
a nice time, but I was like, okay, like in the hour that we were there, and we bowled all of that time. I'm like, and when I bowl, I don't tend to sit a whole lot. I tend to just stand and wait my turn and walk around or whatever. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that was an entire hour. So not only did I now burn twice as many calories as I would in the first half an hour, but I stood the entire, it's
Right.
it's that little stuff that I'm starting, and especially when you start to get a little bit older, you start to feel when you haven't done
Right.
anything all day, or
Right.
and I get it though. Like you said, we have more things doing stuff for us, but
Yeah.
we're so mentally exhausted that we
Right.
can't even clarify how to get those 15,000 steps in because we're
Right.
so bogged down with like you said, we keep ourselves unnecessarily busy sometimes,
Yeah. And
especially mentally.
right. And, we glorify busy and we make people believe that, you know, it's the thing, it's interesting use. It's speaking of words that really bother me, this is one that's starting to bother me, and that is the word lazy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that it's about lazy. Like, we have lots of conveniences, but like we use the word lazy as this really derogatory thing, and we sort of pin it on anyone who isn't like striving for the top of this, of the social economic ladder, and anybody who isn't like working 70 to 80 hours a week, they're clearly lazy, or you would be more successful. Bullshit, by the way. Bullshit. And what's the quality of your life if you're working that much, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, exactly. Like everybody was talking about when Elon Musk came out with that stupid fucking theory about how you have to work 80 hours a week. And everybody, of course, people who take like fucking Elon Musk at every fucking like breath of air he talks about. But then suddenly it was literally like in a few hours, there was all these other articles that were like, that's the most unhealthiest advice you could give to the average American citizen. It is
Right,
one
and it's
thing when
just
you
not
have
realistic.
it's unrealistic. And it's one thing when you have, thousands of dollars being thrown at you every hour on the hour, whether you're working
Sure.
or not.
Right.
It's a whole
Right.
nother thing when you're getting paid $7.25 per hour that you're
Right.
working those. And that's the
Exactly.
difference. There is a quality over the amount of
Yes.
quantity that you're giving. And I'm almost like, dude, between a 40-hour work week, and especially for you, I mean, between your work, your school, being a
Right.
podcast phenomenon everywhere and everything else. But I mean, your schedule was packed tight, and
Yeah.
even if you weren't quote unquote working for 80 hours, you damn were working for 80 hours,
Well,
you
yeah,
know.
like this is the thing that also becomes a different component of like, does one person's 80 hours, which might for me might include, you know, reading research, reading textbooks, writing papers, commuting 15 to, approximately 15 to 18 hours a week, um, in class, seeing clients, writing progress notes, all of those things. So sure, maybe I work a I'm busy so many hours of a day. But when I was that busy, no one was getting the best of me, and I wasn't getting the best of me. Like, what
Exactly.
what
And
I
were
was
you being
putting out
lazy when
there.
you were sitting around? And if everyone
No.
says, "Oh, you're being so lazy," well, how am I being lazy? Because I'm, like you said, lazy is a very. I'm lazy when I'm like, dude, I went into bed one day with a fucking box full of Timbits and I didn't get out for 18 hours.
but
That
but
was pure
that but
laziness, but I
but why
deserved
wasn't
it.
that relaxing?
It
Why
was.
is that not something you would call relaxing? Why is it something you I was lazy today? Why couldn't you say I took the day to relax? Today, I relaxed today. I wouldn't say I had a lazy day. I relaxed today. That simple shift in how you speak to yourself can make a huge difference.
No, I would definitely have to agree. And like you said, it is really about verbiage and what makes
Right.
people feel better or what their quotes or their mantras or what kind of gets us through every day. Because I really do feel that there's so many people out there, you know, and especially if they're social media junkies, especially
Right.
if they are on, and not just the Twitterverse and the Facebook, but if they are on like the LinkedIn, the Tumblrs, the Reddit, if they're on all these things, right? Or even if they read nothing but the news. So let's say they only read, the New York Times and Business Insider and Forbes and Wall Street Journals, but every single one of those, every single day, have something to say about how the millennials are fucking up their lives or like the economy, how people don't understand what a work ethic is anymore, what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be working, what the magic answer is to sell that pen to fucking whoever in some business bullshit, why the
It's
lone wolf was behind the pack, all
it's
that dumb
yeah.
shit people are constantly comparing themselves to and
It's all
constantly.
about why you're not good enough.
Exactly. And that's what I'm like, no, and stop it. Your guys are just fine. You can be addicted to social media. It's not healthy, but that's what you got to do. But if you're going to do it, start finding something also better to do with your time. I
Well,
don't care
but
if you watch that
remember,
cheesy ass fucking video that's like telling you how Oprah Winfrey, like, she's this because she believes that she's gonna, she believes this every day. And then she thought about it and then she let it happen to her. Like, all right, if that's what it's going to take, let's do this. Like, fuck it, let's just try it out. Hey,
well,
at least it's something positive,
Tom jokes with me all the time because he's like, he laughs that things just sort of happen in my world. He's like, you put that shit out in the universe and things just happen for you. You know that doesn't work that way for other people. And I'm like, well, I
It
don't know that
can.
it doesn't work that way for other people, but it seems to work that way for me a lot. And I don't really know what it is or why it works that way, but I'm very intentional about the things that I know that I want and the things that I know that I'm going after and the things that I put my focus on. I don't know if it's the quote unquote universe or if it's my own focus or if like I don't know what it is. Some of
No,
it may
I
just be
solely believe that it's
freaking luck.
karmic, correct? I really do. I have like it's been a lot of maybe this last year, as you know, it's kind of been hell. So it's been a lot of
Yeah.
soul searching over the last year,
Right.
and I really feel like I'm like, you know what? There's a lot, and all these things that I try to. Why did this happen? Right? We're all
Mhm.
why am I? Why did all these things go happen to say? And my God, I can't get it. And I'm like, I can't get a break because I don't let myself have a break. And I
Right.
think that everything's really crappy. And I see all these, like I
Yep.
said, it's not about just not living negatively anymore. It's about fuck, start seeing like the really cool things that happen.
Well,
Like the
so
guy that
here.
lets you out of the fucking parking lot when you're trying to make a left and no one's letting you fucking out. But that one dude who stops and lets everybody else realize where the car's trying to turn out and stops the rest of traffic so you can get out.
Well, so
Those
here's an
kind of things are
interesting
good.
yeah, but so here's an interesting piece. So if you take nothing away from tonight's conversation other than this one thing.
Okay.
So my recommendation is going to be something that I tell almost all of my clients to do. And the reason I tell them to do this is because it works. It actually rewires your brain. The way your brain works is it searches for more of what you focus on. And so a simple practice, and yes, it would be ideal if you could do it daily. I get it if you can only do it once or twice a week, but the more consistently you do this, the more you make it a practice, the more helpful it becomes. And that is gratitude. Start a gratitude journal, write your I tell people to start with maybe 3 to 5 things every day that you're grateful for before you go to bed.
I like that.
And it's not a big thing. It's not a hard thing. It takes a little while for it to become a habit. I get that. You fall off the wagon one night, start again the next night. It's not that kind of it's not one of those things that if you don't do it, it all falls apart. But what you're doing is like we're very often taught to see the negative and to remember that we're not good enough and that we should be striving harder and working harder. What gratitude allows us to do is it allows our brain to start to recognize and appreciate the things we do have. And then other things start to fall into place differently. And you start to look at all the good stuff that you have and things start to feel like enough. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your circumstances have changed, but what it does change is the way in which you frame the how you're living.
I think that's actually the most solid piece of advice I've gotten in a while. Because I know I've heard it. I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
I've
know.
heard about the gratitude journal, but
Yep.
I'm like, fuck you people. I'm kidding.
Yes. Yes. And people come into my office, they come into my office, and when I tell them that, they give me this look like, you cannot be serious. You're going to give me like the Oprah recommendation. And I'm like, okay, let's remember that it wasn't Oprah's recommend, like it wasn't Oprah's thing. Like
No.
this has some actual scientific research behind it.
Yeah. No,
It
I
just
really do. I know that if the more positive that you think, that you believe, and most of all, like you said, your husband makes fun of you because it's just kind of good things that you happen to it. But I think it's also because of the fact that you receive them.
I'm intentional. I'm very
Yeah.
intentional and I pay attention to the really good stuff that happens in my life. And I'm grateful for those things. And here's the other piece that I have heard from clients around this is that once the gratitude starts to become a little more habitual, you ride the storm of the stuff that isn't good much easier. Like it becomes easier to ride those waves when things are tough. A gratitude journal gives you something to pull out and read when you've had a really shitty day. And you can remember then that, like, not every day or not every moment is as shitty as this one feels. And sometimes you need a physical reminder of that. And there is something that happens to your brain if you write it down. So sure, you could say it in your head. I did that for a long time. I said it to myself 4 or 5 times before I went to bed every night. Um, but writing it it's more concrete and it's something then that you can utilize differently. And there's research around it. There's it truly does wire your brain differently and it makes the really like no, the tough stuff's not going to go away. The emotions are going to come up. You're going to feel sad and you're going to be angry and you're going to feel hopeless and helpless and you know all of the other things people label as negative emotions. You're going to feel them. They get space. They get to exist because that's part of the human experience. But gratitude allows you to ride that and remember that it isn't always like that and to find the small things that can make getting through that stuff easier for you to do.
Well, hot damn. Look at Rachel Miller figuring out why I hate the word resolution and giving me something to look forward to. Oh, ah, so good. So good. This is why you're the podcaster of the year, I tell you. You earned that fucking reward, Rachel. No, I really like that. And I honestly, I will put forth the effort because I do. I have a blank journal. It's one of the things that I got.
Oh,
And I
nice.
just, so it would be good for me to utilize it. No, I'm kidding. It
Put
would
it
be
by your
very good.
bed, put a
Uh-huh.
pen by it, and it doesn't have to, like, don't make it hard, right? Don't make it big things. Make it like, look, some days the only thing you're grateful for is that you got up and brushed your teeth today. That's fine.
There's some
That's
other people who are really grateful that I brush my teeth and put on deodorant, you know?
right. There you go.
Right.
You know, and so remembering that, sure, am I ridiculously grateful today that I'm I got to spend hours on the beach today and I can hear the water outside my window? Yes. Will I be just as grateful for getting home and, loving on the pets and, you know, there's a piece of me that will somewhere even find a small piece of gratitude about the fact that school starts again on Monday because I know that so many people don't have the opportunity to do what I'm doing right now.
That is
So
true. You
yeah,
kick ass.
right. So I'm dreading going to school on Monday and then Monday night I will remind myself that I'm actually really grateful that I have an incredible opportunity to do something so few people in the world get to do. So that's what a gratitude journal allows you to have is this the days that you remember the silly little things like I don't know, you snuggled on the couch with your kid for 5 minutes. And sometimes it's the big things. You got to take a really great vacation. Um, and sometimes it's a nice phone call with a friend. It doesn't always have to be giant things you're grateful. It can just be you got a really great parking space today.
Oh yeah, those are like the best days. Like the ones
Right.
where like it's kind of like raining outside, and
Yes.
you're like, I'm gonna be so fucked. It's like especially around the Christmas time, especially around here, it was rainier than hell. And
Uh,
I'm telling you, but those moments where you're like, it's packed, but you just happen to circle one more time around, and that car just happened, and you're like, sweet mother of Jesus, like I've got it. This is my
Tom calls
spot.
that rock star
Oh
parking.
my
He's
god,
like,
I love Rockstar parking. It's like one of my favorite things. Like I
right?
I it really does. I my two favorite things that will always make my day is a damn good parking spot and somebody letting me out. Like whenever I'm trying to like turn on the street and like again, like I said, to me, it's one of the most things that I am an avid waiver too. Like you
Huh?
let me go, I'm like, thank you. Like I'm like a rock star. Thank you so much. I'm like keep my hand in the air and I'm waving
You're
it
like,
as you're behind
you're
me.
my
Like
new best
you're
friend.
you're amazing. I appreciate what you've done. Rock star. You are rock star status now. I've
Right?
got
Yes.
I'm just letting you guys know there are some people like myself who get really worked up about those, and it makes our day like so much better. And that is one of
Right.
those things that I get like super pumped about. I
And
don't know.
when you go home that night, and here's the other great thing about a gratitude journal is that what you go to sleep on then are the things that you were grateful for about your day,
Yeah.
rather than all the things you're freaking pissed off about when you went to bed.
Oh, agreed.
So, in some ways, it also can help you sleep better
Wake
because
up better because you slept
yes,
better and not have those really creepy,
yeah,
crappy dreams.
right. And I know it sounds so silly. I tell my clients this all the time. I know that what I'm asking you to do sounds silly and sounds stupid. I know this. I understand this. I'm asking you to do it anyway. If you don't, I can't force you. Like that's not what therapy is about. But I have clients who still say to me all the time, I had no idea something this simple would make this much of a difference. And I'm like, I know. This is why I've been telling you to do it for 6 months. Like,
You're like, just listen to me in the first place and you would be fine. No.
right. But people can't always hear it until they're in a place where it starts to make sense for them, or they're in a place where nothing else seems to be working. And fine, I'll try this stupid gratitude journal, Rachel. Fine, I'll try it. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I have clients who struggle with emotional regulation who it's been helpful for. I have clients with massive amounts of anxiety who find it helpful. I have clients who deal with depression and find it helpful. I have together and have found it really helpful for their relationship. So it it can just it's silly. It sounds silly. I know this. And it can make a really big difference.
All right. You guys heard it from Rachel Miller yourselves. Y'all go buy some journals with me and we can record it together. It'd be
There you
fantastic.
go. I love that idea.
I do too, actually. I really do. That was awesome. I really do appreciate it. And on that actually beautiful note, we're gonna wrap this up. And
Sounds good.
you got a beautiful ocean out there to sniff one more time before you gotta head back to the Chi Town. So
Ugh,
where
yeah.
can I let people know where they can find Rachel Miller at?
So you're gonna ask me to remember all these. I
I know.
think Instagram is Rachel D. Miller. I think Twitter is Miller
Miller.
Rachel D. I think it's Miller Rachel D on Twitter. And then my Facebook page is Rachel D. Miller AMFT. And so you can find stuff there. Lots of some of the articles I mentioned, I'll post there. I post lots of what I think are really good reads and things that can be helpful. I posted an article recently on there that was how do you stop being so busy?
That was a really great
So
article.
that's
I
something
read
that
that
talks
and
to
that
you
was
like that.
awesome.
Oh, good. So yeah, I try to post things that seem helpful or seem relevant or stuff's going on. I post that on there. So, and then I do the same on Twitter, Instagram. There's pictures of the beach on Instagram. My pets are on Instagram, all the babies. So lots of food. I'll warn you before if you want to follow my Instagram page. There's always lots of food. I like food, and I post lots of pictures of food.
Food is very good stuff.
So, yep. So that's all the places you can find me. I'm on Psychology Today. If you search me, I think the link is on my Instagram. So, all that good stuff.
Well, thank you very much for letting us know that. And fans, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to wrap this up as well. And we're going to sign off and we'll see how this all gets edited and ties in together. But thank you again, Rachel, for coming on. And we're
Happy
going to
to
go
do
ahead.
it.
Yeah. And then you can go ahead and